First, over the last week and a half, few people in Maine have watched what has unfolded in Ukraine with more anguish than a husband and wife in Leeds.
Each day, sometimes each hour, has been wrenching for Tracy Blake Bell and her husband, Nat Bell, because for the last 2 years, they've been working to adopt 2 teenage boys who are Ukrainian.
The adoption process was nearly finished when their world was turned upside down. As Russian troops and tanks rolled into Ukraine, Tracy Blake Bell and Nat Bell watched with disbelief and horror. They had been in Ukraine just a few weeks earlier, completing almost all of the last few steps needed for an international adoption. You might be over there right now in Ukraine, picking those boys up and bringing them back here, right now, if it weren't for the invasion.
We were there 3-4 weeks ago.
Even though you'd been told, warned by the U.S. State Department
not to go.
Not to go.
But we couldn't. It's such a bureaucratic nightmare to get these kids, and we finally had a date, so we went. Tracy and Nat had spent 2 years navigating through the bureaucracy, painstakingly attending to every detail that had to be addressed so they could adopt 2 Ukrainian brothers who are orphans, 14-year-old Sorozha and 17-year-old Vanya. The boys, whose faces have been blurred for their protection, have stayed with the Bells and their 2 biological teenage sons on 2 extended visits, including a 3-month stay this past summer. Whose idea was it for you to think about adopting them? Did you and Tracy come up with that idea, or did the 2 boys? I feel like it was everybody, the 6 of us. It was obviously in the back of our mind because they fit so well with our family.
They are absolutely incredible kids. There's no way if you met them for a short period of time that you wouldn't adore them.
In the weeks before the invasion, as Vladimir Putin issued increasingly ominous threats, Tracy told Sorozha and Vanya to each pack a small bag with essentials they could grab if they had to evacuate their orphanage at a moment's notice.
You know, a little bit of water, food, some extra warm socks. And my oldest boy said, "Mom, I'm so sorry. All the things you gave me, I have to leave behind." And I said, "Buddy, it's okay. We can replace those things."
What went through your mind when you first heard of the invasion?
I was deeply worried, but I was also, I suppose, selfishly thankful that my boys were in such a rural place, that they were insulated by these brave people who were holding the Russian army back.
One aspect of this war that is new to the long history of human conflict is that people all over Ukraine can communicate, often quickly and easily, with people outside their country. Tracy has done everything she possibly can to stay in close touch with the boys. She's spending 16 or 18 hours a day trying to orchestrate and facilitate getting the kids moved to safety, figuring out a way to keep the adoption chugging along. The Bells heard from one of the boys as we were talking in their kitchen.
I've been asking him for a couple hours to send me a message. He's okay.
In the second week of the war, as the outlook for Ukraine has at times darkened, there is something Tracy does for the boys every day.
To tell them multiple times a day how proud I am and what good boys they are and how much I love them, no matter what happens.
As the war grinds on, Nat and Tracy are trying to help not just the orphans they want to adopt, but all the orphans in Ukraine and all the would-be adoptive parents who are trying to give those kids a real home and a better life.
And as much as I love any human being on this earth, I love these 2 boys and I want them safe. And I am just one. There are thousands of us, and we want our voices heard because we want the best for these kids.
A general in the American Civil War said, "War is cruelty, and you cannot refine it." But war has made the Bells only more determined, no matter what the legal or bureaucratic obstacles are, to adopt those boys nearly 5,000 miles away.
I will love them not as if they were my own, but because they are my own in my heart. They're not my own on some notarized documentation that has been apostilled by someone who doesn't know me. But they are my children.
Vanya and Saroja are now out of Ukraine. They're in Poland, in a safe place. They're being looked after by caring and responsible adults. So that's really good news. However, that does create new problems in trying to adopt them because now they're no longer in the Ukrainian adoption and legal system.
Right.
They're in a different country, and just what happens with that is not clear. Now, as you think about the determination of the Bell family and the love that is at the heart of this story, they asked repeatedly that we emphasize that this is not their story alone. This is also the story of so many other families and so many other kids in Ukraine who are in the same situation now that they are. So they obviously need help to try to bring about changes, to try to adopt these kids, to try to bring them over here. They immediately reached out to Representative Jared Golden, their congressman, and to Senator Susan Collins. They've been particularly in close contact with Jared Golden in his office. The Bells say that both Senator Collins and Representative Golden have been extremely helpful in trying to offer whatever assistance they can. And Tracy told me that just not long ago that there are key people who are working to create avenues to try to navigate these changes now that will allow either maybe an adoption or if not that, then some sort of temporary visa that would allow Vanya and Saroja and so many other Ukrainian orphans to come over here. Those two kids lived for the past 8 years in orphanages, and they were within a matter of weeks, again, of being brought over here to a new family. So the story obviously is not over. We'll see where it goes from here.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing it with us.